Hello, frequencies. We're going to talk about Judy Chicago today, but I want to tell you where we are. Yep, we're taking the podcast on the road. We're calling in from New Mexico. We're at Through the Flower, which is a nonprofit feminist arts organization that was founded by Judy Chicago. So I made a reservation. I came in. I've gotten a great tour by Elizabeth Theben. So thank you, Elizabeth, and everybody that helped create this magical experience because I was able to get a private tour and was helped in so many capacities. I can't wait for all of you to be here one day. So today's episode is going to be a little different because on the fly, we're creating a podcast. So I've got books here, quotes here, Elizabeth here. It's going to be a fabulous episode. So let's get into it. I am a huge fan of Judy Chicago. Everybody knows that. The podcast was inspired by her question that she asked herself in the 70s. How do we feminize the landscape? So we're going to be talking about a few different things, but essentially what we're going to talk about today is the butterfly effect. We're going to talk about the butterfly form and how she incorporates the form into her work. We're going to talk about feminine energy. We're going to talk about the feminine divine, because of course we do. And then we're going to talk about how she's using the butterfly as a form. And at the end, we're going to talk a little bit about using that as a metaphor for how many other people she's been able to affect, which is going to be countless in this podcast. But it's still something to recognize in somebody that's helping not erase feminist culture. Okay. So I'm obsessed with Judy on so many levels. She's obsessed about color. So am I. I love how she really gets into color and context and feminine energy to create a career and to create her lifestyle. So, do you remember her last collaboration? If we look at it through artist and their brand, like that trope of using collaborations, I mean, did you see the collaboration with Dior? It was in 2020. And what she was able to do is create a huge goddess figure for the couture line at Dior. So this collaboration was really important. I think one thing that I remember the most is that Judy has said, no one's ever told me I can go bigger or help me go bigger. And that was the one thing that Dior helped her realize was in the 70s, she created a rendering of a goddess. They collaborated. Judy then was able to make a goddess, not just 60 feet, it was 250 feet. It was 250 feet. I mean, just as an artist, being supported to go bigger, and they made sure all the work was handcrafted, handmade, in the fine art, anything, anything that was going to support Judy's vision. I mean, that's an amazing collaboration. Some of you may know Judy's work from The Dinner Party. That is work that museums and curators and visitors still talk about. It's been said that that's the show that everybody wanted to see, but nobody wanted to exhibit. It's huge. It is over 30 elements. I'm going to put it that way, because if you haven't seen The Dinner Party, you should go see it. But let me just start out with talking about it, The Dinner Party, and then we're going to continue talking about the butterfly form, okay? So let me go to my notes because I made a start one, okay? Okay, we're going to talk about The Dinner Party, but I'm going to give you some perspectives from Judy and go behind the scenes. We've got diary excerpts and everything. The Dinner Party is very complex. And so I'm just going to start out with these excerpts and we're going to show a picture. So let's start. In almost all ancient religions, the feminine principle was seen as the fundamental cosmic force. The female creative energy is embodied in the first plate on the table, that of the primordial goddess, who symbolizes the original feminine being from whom all life emerged. And stop. So what we're talking about here is we're unearthing and we're giving contributions to these females. So the whole installation is massive. I mean, I would have loved to have stood on a ladder to see all of the behind the scenes working on it. And I've seen pictures. That's how Judy was helping compose the final artwork, as she was up in the rafters, really getting each place set out in an aesthetic view and through a theme and things that made sense to her. And now that we've talked about the dinner party, let's go to her diary excerpt, okay? This was an excerpt from Tuesday, October 8th. I have been having trouble finalizing the concept for the dinner party. I just love being able to go behind the scenes. Like, what were they thinking, right? They're not accountants, these are artists. So she continues. First, I was going with the subtitle 25 Women Who Were Eaten Alive. That's hilarious. Then my concept changed from women who were consumed by history to women who could be models for the future. Yeah, right? I mean, this woman is creating the butterfly effect then. She's giving recognition. She's unearthing. She's recognizing the contributions of all these women who have been erased and not being told throughout history in any educational format. The dinner party does end with Georgia O'Keeffe at the place settings. And I think some of you may have learned about her artwork in school. Don't know, but I'd suspect some of you did. Let's start talking about the butterfly form, because this was a thread that I wanted to talk about, because when I was first, I love the butterfly. I am like the butterfly aunt with my nieces and send butterfly things to. I think it is such a beautiful metaphor. And as I've learned more and more about Judy's work, yeah, it's amazing. Listen to this. The butterfly form undergoes various stages of metamorphosis as the piece unfolds. Sometimes she is pinned down, sometimes she's trying to move from a larva to an adult state, and sometimes she is nearly unrecognizable as a butterfly, and sometimes she is almost transformed into an unconstrained being. Isn't that so great? Let's continue. Let's go down here. But the introduction of the dimension of the surface allowed me to symbolize other aspect of women's history, the rise and fall of opportunities, and the effects women have made in the last 200 years to change their destiny. I mean, that's not subtle. That's good stuff that we need. I wanted to bring up the butterfly in the dinner party, because you can, once you start seeing it, you can just see the form and you can see the undulation of butterflies through the place settings. Okay. I'm sure I'll come back to the dinner party and the butterfly, but let's go back even further into Judy's career. If we look at the obra through this form of the butterfly, I mean, she did huge pyrotechnic installations and performances, rather, in the Atmosphere series, where she created the form of a butterfly and then pyrotechnically like blew it up. I mean, if you were asking yourself, how can you feminize the atmosphere, and you saw pyrotechnic display or making dinner, I mean, you would be like, yes, a pyrotechnic display is how you could. I thought she just nailed the nail right on the head, right? It's so great. But as we continue to look further and we see how she is giving us the world through the feminine experience, looking at how she's been able to use the feminine divine throughout her work, I mean, let's just take one synchronicity. She was making the butterfly form. She lived on Mariposa Avenue in LA. That's Spanish for butterfly. I just think it's worth having a conversation with the divine, like leaving these goodies in her career And she's been very public about talking about femininity, the female divine, and how things circulate in her career. So let's talk about the smoke sculptures even further, because we can see this through a different narrative. We can start to look at this through earth art. We can look at this through feminist perspectives. We can look at this through social justice. I mean, the goddess tradition was wiped out, tried to be wiped out. I don't want to say, because there are so many of us keeping the tradition alive, and she's an artist that is doing that too. So, yeah. Now the butterfly wings are continuing to fly. Look at the artist who she's been able to be inspired. What other artists have been inspired by her? I have. I mean, that's one. There's so many schools that have been inspired by her work and using that as inspiration. What was the last one? Oh, yeah. Paris Paloma just was on the late night. Nope, it was another show, did a performance that was dedicated to the dinner party. So, everybody, I'm just here to ask you, how can you help feminize the atmosphere? How can you help create more wings in this butterfly effect? How can you go and create more femininity in the air?